Hi, I'm Chef Sherry Ronning, and I'm going to show you how to make my super simple black bean chili in the slow cooker. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start chopping up our vegetables. Just make sure you rinse. We are doing slicing up an onion, just a white onion, pepper. You can do whatever color that you would like, green. I like a little bit of sweetness, so I use the orange. And then we're going to use 6 stalks of celery, so roughly 6 stalks. So if you have a little bit more, a little bit less, that's perfectly fine. So we just need to clean them, and we will dice them up into small pieces. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there we go, 6. I'm just going to rinse them quick just to make sure to get off any of the dirt, the debris that's on the inside of it. And you want, definitely make sure you rinse them off, because there is, as you can see, there is dirt that gets on the inside there, and you do not want to be chewing on any gritty sand when you're eating your soup, when you're eating your chili. And there we go. So now I'm just going to take and trim the ends on this. I like to cut like the white part off so that you have a little bit of white there, but mostly green. And you can leave like the leafy part on here. That's not going to hurt anything. It gives it a little bit of texture to it. And so this is the most monotonous part of this recipe. Super easy to make. Basically, I do this recipe, I've done this recipe for years, and you kind of swap it up a little bit, do different variations. I've done it where I've not added the black beans, and my family likes to have the black beans, and then also the my daughter likes to add noodles to it. So I do add it like about halfway through the cooking, I will add some of the macaroni noodles to it, so it just gives it just a little another layer of texture to it. And so it's just something that's a little bit different about my chili that is just something that my family likes. So I'm going to take, basically when I'm cutting the celery for small, I'm going to do like a small dice. I'm just going to cut it in strips like that. And if you do see some hidden dirt, just make sure to get that off of there, because sometimes it does like to stick around a little bit. I'm doing this on my cutting board, and I do have a kitchen knife that I've had that I love to use to cut this with. And a lot of people, like on Yellowstone, if you're a Yellowstone watcher, I love Yellowstone. I've watched every episode several times. I am a huge fan. And one of the episodes, if you've ever watched it, they talk about in the cowboys are talking about, and Jimmy brings up, is chili actually chili if it's got the black beans in it? And I say yes. I say chili can have several variations. It's in chili is, I guess, mine is Midwestern chili. This is we're from Michigan, so I guess this would be the Midwestern version of chili. But I do it with beans or without beans. So, and it's still chili to me, whether it has beans or it doesn't have beans. It's still the same thing. So I'm just gonna gather my celery, and I'm just gonna cut it into small pieces. So this, you want just small pieces, and because it's gonna cook like all day long, and so it will cook down a little bit, but it's still gonna hold its shape. So this is the most monotonous part of this, and another reason I love this slow cooker. It is a West Bend slow cooker, and the reason why I love this versus a crock pot is I could take this to the stove, which is what I'm going to do today with this chili. So this is, for me, this is one pot, and I don't have to take and brown the meat, brown the vegetables and stuff in one pot, throw it into the crock pot and then cook it all day long. This, I do it all in one pan, and it's on the warmer all day long. I've done this for years and years and years. I've had this slow cooker for years, and every couple of years, because I use it so much, my husband will get me a new one, because they wear out. The insides are just like a normal pan, they wear out a lot. So I usually go through one of those like every couple of years. So for me, they are well worth the money. I love them. Okay, so we're just gonna cut up the vegetables. Which it seems like this is a lot. This chili is going to be full. This container here, so it is enough for a crowd. It's enough to have leftovers if you want. I have a family of usually 3-4 people that I'm cooking for. Sometimes my brother, so I give food to them also. So this will generously feed a large amount of people. Okay, so I'm just going to get the celery in here, and we're going to saute the vegetables up, and then I'm going to add the meat to it. And the meat is also something, with this recipe you can do like different variations of it. You can, like, say you didn't have a pepper and you still wanted to make the chili, you can still make it. There is peppers in the chilies in here, so you're fine. And if you want to get like pre-cut, I know in the grocery stores now they have the pre-cut vegetables. You can use those also to save time. And with this recipe, I have actually, when I was full-time working mom out of the house, I would make this, like I'd have dinner. We'd eat dinner, and I had to work the next day. My husband had to work the next day. The kids were school activities and all this. We were in and out of the house, and I always like to have a good warm meal for my family. And so I would actually prepare this, put this together the night before. And when I left in the morning to go to work, I would throw it on the slow cooker and let it cook all day long. And so when the kids would come in from school, they could grab a bowl of chili and have a nice warm after school meal. If they were doing sports afterwards, which happened a lot in our house, they would go after practice. They could come home and grab a bowl. You know, it's something that you can just have on the slow cooker, and who's ever in and out, whenever they're hungry, they can just grab a bowl and be gone. And You know, they could have one serving of it and then come back and have another serving. Or if they have like friends over, there's plenty of this left that, or plenty of this here that you could serve friends if they like to have friends stop by with them. And for me, this is the worst part of making this chili, is doing all the diced vegetables. I'm not a fan of sitting here chopping this up like this, but this is the slowest part of this. Everything else is just dump and go. And so I'm using, and this is another thing too, this is probably a medium onion. If you have like a bigger size onion, you can use it. If you have smaller, you can use 2. You know, it's kind of, I just kind of use what I have sometimes. And if I only have one small one, then that's all I put in there. So, and if I have a humongous one, I only might only just cut up and use just half of it. So, and I don't know how you cut your onion. I've cut it up different ways. For this one, I'm just going to I cut both ends and I took the outside peeling off of it. I'm just going to cut this in half. And then I'm not going to cut all the way through. I'm going to leave a little bit on the back side here. And so I'm just going to cut into it like little strips. And so when I cut, we have little pieces. And I know some people will take and go cut into it like this. I don't know, I never really like doing that, but you can. It's basically, you just want just small pieces because it will cook up. You're gonna cook it all day long. And that too is how long do you cook this? So I like to have this on and cook it for a good 8 hours. But if you only have 4 hours, then you know, turn it up as high as it'll go and you should be fine with it. So we're almost got, and we've got probably about, I would say maybe a third of this pan is full of just the vegetables. So this is a really hearty soup. Okay. There we go. That is our vegetables that we have. And I'm going to transfer this to the stove. Turn this on medium heat. And then I'm just going to cook that up a little bit. I'm going to clean up my mess here. And I'm going to show you the next step. Okay, so my vegetables have been sauteing for a few minutes. And then give them a look here. The only thing with these is you have to watch. You can't touch the pan or otherwise you'll burn yourself. So I just use the oven mitt. And the vegetables are looking really good. They're sauteed a little bit. You don't want them like browned or anything. You just want to get a little bit of the moisture out of it and just cook just a little bit because you're going to keep on cooking it more. So we're going to add, I have frozen ground beef that I'm using that I've unthawed. So I'm doing a pound of the ground beef. And then I'm doing a pound of pork sausage. that I bought from the store. So this is another thing that you can kind of mix and match with. I've done all beef, just using all beef burger. It works out just as good. But basically you want like 2 pounds equivalent of meat. So you can mix and match the meats. I've used all venison in this recipe, so you can use 2 pounds of venison. I've used venison sausage that my husband has made, and like mix and match, like part venison sausage. This is pretty versatile. So, and it tastes awesome, whatever direction that you use as far as your meat. So, I like the variety of the pork with the meat. It just gives it just a little bit of an extra layer to your flavoring with this. And so I'm just I like to use a wooden spoon. This is my favorite. It's a Pampered Chef spoon. It has a little like cutting part on the side here. And I've had this for years and years and years, and I absolutely love it. So you can use any other kind of spoon that you're used to, but this is my favorite. And you can do this recipe on the stove, like if you just want to just cook it up and do a pot on the stove. I would just watch it. The reason I like to do it in the slow cooker is because I can get it prepared and get it all mixed up and just throw it on the warmer, the cooker part, and just let it go all day long. And we've done it where, when nobody's home, and just left it, and it cooks at a lower temperature, and it's worked perfectly fine. I love this West Bend cooker. This is my favorite, because this is why I like this, is because the pan, you can saute the meats and stuff on the stove and then take this directly, put on the warmer, and slow cook it for the rest of the day. So that's why I love this. I've actually probably been using these, I would say probably a good 25 years that I've been using this type of slow cooker. I do have several recipes on my website. I've done soups in these. I do some meatballs. I've done like a venison meatball or just a regular beef meatball, it's like a creamy version meatball in this. So I do have several recipes on my website if you want to take a look. So we're just going to let this cook. We want the meat to brown really good, and when I'm stirring it, I'm trying to crumble up there's like larger pieces of meat, and I'm just trying to get them crumbled up as they're cooking. So that's what's taking place on the stove here. So, and as you could see, probably my pan is just a little over halfway. This pan will be almost full to the top with chili when you're done with it. So this makes a good amount of chili. Okay, so I'm gonna let this cook. I'm gonna show you over here. So this is another variation. This is something that I do different. And basically it's because I don't really like chunky tomatoes like in my chili. So I just take the diced tomatoes and I chop them up just a little bit. So, and you don't have to do this. If you want to just take the diced tomatoes and just chop them up, you can actually use like tomato sauce in place of this if you would like. I do like a little bit of texture from it. So That's why I still use the diced tomatoes, but then I use this little hand blender and just chop them up just a little bit. So I just pulse it, and I still want to create, I still want some of the texture to it, but I'm just eliminating a little bit of the chunky tomato-ness of it. And you can also use homemade. If you have homemade tomatoes that you get from the garden, go ahead and use them. I also have the Rotel, the diced tomatoes and the chilies. Those are pretty small pieces, so I'm not going to use the blender on these. So I just do the can of the diced tomatoes when I do that. Another thing that if you're using your black beans in this, I do rinse them or drain them off. And so I do have my colander that I use. And so I'm just going to go to the sink and just drain them off. And you can rinse them if you want. I just take and just put them in the colander, and just to let the juice drip off of it. I don't put the juice in the chili when I make this. So I will add the juice from the cans of tomato. I don't drain the juice off the tomatoes. So let's check this out. It looks like it's cooking pretty good. And you want the meat to be browned. You don't want to see any red in it. So basically when it's brown, which it looks like it's pretty good, you can see the vegetables are tender. They're not like mushy or falling apart. They're holding their shape, but they're soft. And the burger is browned on it, and it's in small pieces. It's not like really large pieces, which is what you want. And I do not drain, like some people, if you want to maybe drain any of the grease off of this, you can. I am just going to leave it because I want the flavor of it, and it doesn't show through in the final, the grease doesn't really come through in the final part of the chili. So I'm just going to leave that in there. And then I'm just going to start, this is browned. It's been good enough, small enough pieces, and everything, there's no pink color to it or anything. So I'm just going to start adding the rest of my ingredients in here. We're going to add the chopped up tomatoes. I'm going to add the can of the Rotel, which is the chili peppers. And then this too is something that you can do, which I discovered one time. This you can get in different, like mild, medium, or hot. I just like the original, which is like a mild. It's not, I don't really like this really hot. So you can, if you want spicier chili, then get the hotter chili. Get the ones that are hotter. If you want like spicy chili, then instead of like the bell peppers or along with the bell peppers, do a spicier pepper in with this. I found that for us, this is the perfect spiciness consistency, and it's not too spicy, but it's got a little bit of spice to it. So I'm going to add the spices. So you can add like, this is taco seasoning, and so we buy this in bulk, and the quantity is on my recipe on my website, but when I make chili, I just kind of just sprinkle in. I really don't measure. That's one thing when I'm making this, is I just kind of do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's kind of how I've always done. You can use salt and pepper for seasoning. I prefer to use Lowry's seasoning salt and the Morton's Nature Seasoning. That's what I use, our family uses. And this is another thing, use what you're used to. Don't try doing what I like, because my tastes are different than your taste buds are going to be. So you got to use this flavoring, the seasonings that you have, and use what you have in your cupboard. So we've got that mixed up in there. I like to add, this is probably my secret ingredient, I like to add just a little bit of sugar to this, because the tomatoes are a little bit too tangy for me, and so I just add a little bit in there. And then as you can see, we're probably about 3/4 of the way up here, so we're just going to add the tomato juice. And you can add homemade tomato juice if you want. You can, there's like the cans of tomato juice. So I'm just going to pour this in here, and it's going to come close to the top. Just like that. This is going to be a full pot of chili. And then I'm going to add the drained beans, which is the last. In this too, if you don't want beans in there, don't add them. If you want like navy beans, if you want a different kind of bean, add that to it. This is completely an optional item. So I'm just going to add there, and you don't want them like smooshed. You want them just to, like, when you get a scoop full of these, you want to see some beans in it. And so that is pretty much it. And then we're just going to let this cook. It does, it looks like chili. It is, if you want it thicker, do like take the lid off of it and let some of the moisture evaporate out of it. Will give you a thicker chili. And the longer you cook, the thicker it will get. And then, because my daughter likes the noodles in her chili, which is such a weird thing, but my husband we used to do it when we were first married. And I used to actually make this without the beans when we were first married, but I used to make it with the noodles in there. So now I do it with both. So I'm going to let this cook for several hours, and then I'm going to add the noodles into it, and it's just going to soak up some of the juice, and it's just going to give you another dimension to your chili. So this is another optional item, and you can actually use different kind of noodles if you want. So this is what I have in the cupboard. So this is what I'm going to use today. And I'm going to let this kind of start to boil a little bit on the stove, because I do have time. If I didn't have time, that would be something different. But I'm going to let it come to a boil on the stove, and then I'm going to transfer it on high to the slow cooker warmer base, and then I'm just going to let that cook for the rest of the day. And I'll come back and we'll show you what it looks like later this evening. Okay, so our chili has been cooking for about 5 hours. It's been done. My husband has already had some about an hour ago, and it was plenty done. I did add the noodles in there, so it is thickened up from the noodles. This turned out perfect. Look how thick and chunky it is. Really, really good. Let's try some here. So when you have chili, there is all kinds of ways that you can eat it. Just eat it just like this. I like to eat mine with some crackers, like especially if it's really juicy and got a lot of broth, juice, or tomato base to it. I will add the crackers to it, but we're pretty thick here, so it thickened up really well this time. So I'm just going to add some shredded cheese on this. You can use like goldfish crackers in here if you have kids. It's a fun thing to do. You can add different kind of cheeses. There's a lot of things that you can do with this. So I'm just going to sprinkle some cheese on the top here. And let's give this a try. If you let it sit just a few minutes, the cheese will melt and give it a little bit different texture or flavor to it. This is so good. Turned out perfect. Perfect consistency. Nice and piping hot. A nice warm meal for you to come home after a long day at work, or like here in the winter time, to come home if you're outside enjoying the snow, enjoying activities, to come in and have a nice warm meal. So you need to give this a try. If you like this recipe, go subscribe to my page, like the recipe, go to FromMichiganToTheTable.com, and there you will find all kinds of Midwestern cuisine recipes. You'll find Blackstone griddle recipes and smoker recipes. So just poke around and see what you can find. Enjoy.